We said, because he's right, like sometimes he'll come home from a road trip and he's like, yeah, let's go do something. I'm like, I got a workshop. Or I had a really bad week this week. Like I'm busy. I was covering for someone. I don't want to do anything. And so it was getting to the point that we were not doing anything. Right.
Right.
And so we recently just said, I'm a big planner. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for another episode of the Female Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Krista Gurka, and today we have a very, very special episode. I always say that about all the episodes, but today is a very special episode because if you're actually watching on YouTube, you'll see that I have a very special guest with me live in the studio. And by live in the studio, I mean in my home office. And we are recording this on a Friday night and we're having happy hour at the same time. So cheers to happy hour. And I'm going to be having a discussion with my partner in life, my husband, Scott Gurka. And I don't know, I came up with this idea of like talking just a little bit about how we navigate our life, our marriage, our family situation, our personal life, while we, I'm an entrepreneur and I run a business and he travels a lot for work. So welcome, Mr. Gurka.
Thank you. That was quite an introduction.
It's always an introduction. This is my introverted, like, dream world where I just get to talk and no one talks back or interrupts me.
Am I supposed to say you're always this nice?
No, you don't have to say that. I'm not always this nice. Everyone knows that. I am nice on my podcast though, because once again, no one is at least here judging me. So we are, let's talk a little bit about just let's go way back. Scott and I met in college at the University of Michigan in the 1900s, 1992 to be exact.
1900 sounds so long ago.
I know, that's why it's funny.
Okay, I got you.
You got it?
Yeah.
We met in 1992. He's originally from New York, Queens.
Correct.
And we were like set up from a friend of mine that I went to high school with, and he was in your fraternity. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Russell Lilly. And so anyways, long story short, that was 32 years ago. 31 years
31.
ago. It's insane. That's crazy. And yeah, we've been together through college, physical therapy school, just kids, well, obviously, married, kids, dog, COVID, all the stuff. So we won't bore you with all of that history, but we have been together for a very long time. And I guess the good thing was neither of us came to our marriage really with we were so young when we got together that. So we're going to kind of jump into when I started the business, which was the first one was Pilates on the beach. I think the boys were 4 and 2, maybe we were living
about that, yeah.
So what were the biggest challenges you remember when I first started the business, especially with like our kids being so young, if you even remember that far back?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the two major challenges, which I don't think is unique to our situation, but we were dual income family.
Right.
And so, we obviously relied on your salary. And so taking that jump from, having a salary to, more of an entrepreneurial situation where there was a lot more uncertainty, that obviously with young kids, that obviously, I think made both of us a little uneasy. And then secondly, obviously time, with 2 young kids, it was, there was, obviously how we were going to manage that, as the mother of young kids, I pride myself on being, active father, but, I think your instincts and you, especially when it comes to the kids, really I would say we're more of the CEO of the house, you know, and
I was,
I would say so.
you think so?
Well, in managing the kids, yes.
That's shocking to me.
And
I'll take it.
so anyway, so I think, I think it was, it was the time, obviously, you go from being, when you're working in a clinic environment, it's more predictable hours and predictable salary. When you kind of go out on your own, and it's less predictable income, and now you're working nights, now you're working weekends, now you're have to kind of do everything in between. And so kind of managing that unpredictability and how that kind of works within our family, that was, I do remember that, but I think we managed it pretty well.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, I think you were definitely one of the people that was like, no, you should definitely do this.
Yeah, I was, I fully supported it. And I
Yeah.
thought, and I had a ton of confidence in you that you can do this. And I also, having talked with you, I know you had ideas about how you would run either a clinic or a practice, and didn't, struggle to maybe keep your ideas to yourself, and just wanted to be, ultimately the decision maker and the
You
visionary.
can say it, just be in charge, just do
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I want to do.
and be the decision maker and be the visionary, and really kind of see your vision play out, rather than kind of adhere to, someone else's
Right.
vision and rules.
Did you think, like, when we were even dating or coming up, that that would be something that I would eventually want to do? Like, did you see traits to that? Because neither of us really had, like, neither of us had parents or people in our lives that are business owners for the most part, really.
Yeah, no, I don't think I did see those kind of traits. I mean, I definitely saw, leadership traits and so forth, but you were never one to say like, oh, I have an idea, and like, where it was like, whereas whether it was in college or even after college, where you kind of like, I want to build this, or I want to do this, and just had like entrepreneurial kind of moments. You didn't do that. I mean, I definitely knew at some point you would be running your own practice, because
Really? You thought so?
yeah, because like I said, you wanted to,
Be in
you wanted to be in charge.
Mhm.
And and I definitely saw, leadership qualities, but I didn't see really entrepreneurial.
Right. Is it leadership, or is it just like wanting to have my way?
No, I think it's a combination of both. I think, I think you have a vision of for what you want, and you get, you have a good way of getting people to buy into that vision. Um, and I do think you can, you get people to rally around you. And I do think, I mean, when you were a high school athlete, you were a team captain. I mean, I do think there's some inherent leadership, qualities there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So from in terms of a support system, like I definitely, I just did an episode about like how I balance being a mom and my career. And I was very transparent, and that we've been lucky in family support that we've had. So when the kids were little, my mom lived here in Miami, and so she was helpful. Your mom actually was the person that gave me my first investment into the business. She gave me a check,
Mhm.
and she came down a lot when the kids were here, and she loved coming to the studio, and she also was very, very helpful. So from that aspect, we definitely had family support
Absolutely.
to help us.
Absolutely.
And we have nanny.
Mhm.
Marina was great. Over the years, like how did that, because I definitely think running the business when the kids are little is much harder than when they're older now. So how do you remember? Because I remember it from my side, but I was the business owner. Like, how do you remember it from your side? Like sacrifices that either you had to make, or maybe sacrifices I had to make. Like, how do you remember that in terms of family events and things?
I mean, you're right. We had a lot of family support. I don't have any recollection of it from a negative standpoint, meaning like I don't feel like I had to sacrifice. Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't have you know, I don't remember like, oh, having to sacrifice because you had to work. I mean, you know, look, there might have been, I'm sure there were moments where like, thought I would be maybe, I don't know, playing tennis or playing something or doing something on a Saturday morning. And then you say, oh, I got to work the next morning. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not doing that. But those are minor sacrifices. I never had to, you know, look for a different job to try to accommodate or talk to my boss about readjusting my hours or anything like
Right.
that. And you're right. I think we did have a great support system. So if my work required travel, I wasn't traveling as much back then, but I was traveling, or if I had an event where it was like an intense week or 2 weeks or something, like I think we would sort of bring in the reserves so that I felt comfortable that you could do what I needed to do and that you could do what you needed to do.
So we've always kind of had or at least in my opinion, we've always had like very shared responsibilities in the house.
Mhm.
I would say we don't necessarily have traditional roles that people would think like that I take care of the kid, even though I'm very surprised you said I was the CEO of the kids because they would probably disagree. Um, how was that something that like you saw growing up? Your dad, very hands-on dad, he still is like he's just that's how, or you know, it's just how we've always been. Is that just natural for
Well,
you, or is that
I think it's a combination of both. Like it's probably a combination of three things. One is, yes, my dad was very involved. He did the laundry in our house because the laundry machine was in the basement and he would stay up late and that's where he would do laundry. So from that perspective, and yes, he was a very hands-on dad. Both of my parents were teachers, so they had very similar schedules. So I think that they, kind of shared responsibilities. I would say pretty evenly as well. The second thing is, I don't really like to be idle. I'm constantly looking for things to do.
very true?
I don't really, although I love to watch sports and I love, sitting on the couch, I don't do it for very long. I like to move around and do stuff. And so that's the second thing. And then the third thing is I also don't like to sleep much. So I use that time after everyone goes to sleep. And that worked out great when we had babies and I would do the late shift. And but I always stayed up late and wake up early. So um I had the time to kind of just pick up other things. I'm
That is true. I like to sleep a lot. Don't like to do the laundry. I can sit on the couch and watch Netflix for 8 hours a day. So we definitely differ in those arenas. But we really did share, like, until you started traveling very consistently for work, we had our days that you would drop off and the days that I would drop off. And
Mhm.
I would see patients early on the days that I didn't drop off and vice versa for pickup. I would do the majority of the pickup just because that tended to be in the middle of the day. But we definitely shared a lot of responsibilities when it came to like even being home with the kids. Like you would come home, bathe them, and then that was like your thing. So how about as it got so let's fast forward to when did you start working for the Heat? 5 years ago?
5 years ago.
So let's fast forward to that point. How have things changed now at home? The fact that you are gone a lot and me still running the business. Now we did have a huge, like stay at home order in the middle of all of that. But how do you feel like things have changed?
I think your approach to work is a lot different. I think that you have a team in place now. The business is not all about you, where you have to be physically on site. I think you have a team that you trust, and that that you feel very comfortable with, essentially, almost running and operating the business on a day-to-day perspective. So that gives you the freedom to to either whether it's attend, our kids' games or attend school events or just be home with the dog, whatever it might be. Um, so that's been easier for me, knowing that I feel like the business is not really sacrificing, and you're not really sacrificing from a standpoint of you don't have to change whether I'm home or away. Like it doesn't really, maybe affects it a little bit, like your workflow, but it's kind of similar. In fact, you probably like it sometimes because you probably don't like when I'm in the house putzing around when you're trying to
No,
work.
I don't. That is for sure. Because you never stop. You never stop.
Exactly.
You're going and going and going.
Exactly.
That's interrupting them.
Right.
And-
So I think, and to be honest, I'm not sure if I would have taken this position 10 years ago. I think
So
where it was, I think
how do
we're
you feel about that though? Like how would you like, how does that feel for you that you'd say you would pass up an opportunity to be like, basically you're saying you'd pass up the opportunity because my business was taking.
it wasn't only your
Okay.
business though.
So-
It was also, I really enjoyed coaching the kids' teams. My favorite thing to do is go to my kids, watch my kids play, and like you do make that sacrifice.
Right.
So it was as more about kind of where I was in my life. But it also went sort of hand in hand, with you. Like when I made that decision to like take on this travel and everything, and we discussed it, like I think both of us felt pretty comfortable with where the business was, that you didn't have to be at the studio, for it to be successful.
Correct.
So I think it kind of was just, everything sort of went together, but it wasn't, I didn't feel like I couldn't pursue, something I really wanted to do because of your job. I felt like it was more me dictating it from a standpoint like that I still had things I wanted to do as a father in terms of, be present at games and coach and do all those.
So it was also your life choice.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So let's then talk a little bit about like personality. Like this is where like menopause and I cannot think of words, like how things have changed. Let's just talk about this. What are some of the things that you've seen in me that have changed from like starting the business till now? Like, were there times that things came up that you were like, she's losing it, this is like, you're too much in the business, you're not paying attention at home? What about those times that like it was, were there times that it was difficult and you were like worried about, hey, I think the business is taking over too much?
I think early on when you were, when the business started, it was like the stress of like, am I going to have enough money to pay rent? Am I going to have my, and like that stress really, really weighed on you, understandably, but like, am I making the right decision? Like, how am I going to make rent? And like, how am I going to drive business? How am I going to do that? All that type of stress. So like, you had that stress. Then as kind of the business was growing, it was like, I think you were still a little bit of like an imposter in the business, in the growth of your business. Like it was growing, and and you were getting to like not 7 figures right away, but as it was growing, it was like almost like, I don't know if this is going to last. And you felt like you like really needed to like be hands on the business, always be there, because if you weren't there, like you may not continue on this growth curve, and like it would. And then I would say, I don't know years, because it's, we lost a couple of years of COVID and stuff, but like certainly in the last 5 years, you've been able to like gradually, pull back a little bit, like not like step back from like running, but like just pull back a little bit from like getting involved in day-to-day decisions. You have a team, you have, managers that you trust, you have a team that you trust, and it's like, you're not going to the studio to check to see if, the last person who closed, like put everything away or emptied the trash or or do those things. Like I think you just feel more secure in like, in just that the business will run if you're, if you're not there and you're not doing in it, present, and then I think it's also enabled you to like, enjoy vacations or enjoy time away where it's not, where you don't feel like, you need to check in, every couple hours or every day or so forth.
Right.
So
I think a lot of that is related to like the work I've done, like in therapy and everything like that.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's probably a better having, I would say it's probably just having a better understanding of the business,
Mhm.
and like, the business now has been, sort of more predictable in terms of like, you have to work hard to maintain it and you have to work hard to continue to grow it. But like, I feel like you sort of know what the ingredients are, and it's just a matter of like, just making sure all the ingredients get put in and like, but I feel that now, like, I don't know, your own personal journey, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's the therapy.
I am very transparent on the podcast about me going to therapy and about how much that's helped me like be less reactive to things and understand
Yeah.
that not everyone's out to get me and not everyone's trying to fuck me if they're like quit or resign. It's like not about
Right.
me.
Right. But I don't really see you so much in your business environment. I just see really what I see is kind of like the effects of the business, but I don't really see you so much within your business. Of course I walk by and I hear you on calls and stuff like that, but
Right.
like, I don't really see how you interact with your employees, or like, I mean, sometimes we'll talk about like a situation at work and you'll ask me like, am I crazy, or what do you think? But like, I don't know. I feel like now you have like a really, really good understanding of the business and,
Right.
and what it's going to take to, and that's kind of settled you.
Do you feel like it's given me the ability to be more present, like at home and like not be, or do you still think, and you could be like, no, you're still on the phone all the time, you're on your computer all the time, or
No, I think you're more, listen, I'd be the last person to say that, because I'm constantly on my phone and on the computer at home, but um, yes, it has given you the ability to do that. I mentioned, when we go on vacations, or even if we go like away for a weekend, like, I'll notice like sometimes you don't take your computer, which I'm like, oh shit, she's not taking her computer. Like, I don't do that. Like, I just feel like I feel like I need to have it like just to check in. But like, I think from that perspective,
yeah.
you know,
How well do you feel like you understand the business and like what we're doing at Pilates and Grove and with the mentorship and
I think I have an overall understanding, but I've made a very conscious decision, like, that's not my role. My role is to be your number one fan. I'm not an investor,
Yeah.
although I have a
well,
financial interest.
the business goes to you if
Right, but I have a business. I have a business interest. Obviously, if you're successful, we're successful.
Well, we
and I have a
contribute.
general. I have a general. Of course, I know what the business does. But
Right.
and I know what the coaching business does, and I know, sometimes we talk numbers over dinner and stuff. Because I'm just generally curious, um, but I don't know, like, I don't even know how much you charge for, a class. I've never paid
You
for
never
one.
paid. I know. We just had that discussion on my mastermind call today.
So I don't know. I guess.
How do you feel when I talk about business at home, like from a husband? Do you ever get like, does she want me to help her? Does she want me to just listen? Like, what are those conversations?
No, I actually like when we talk business, because I want to be, I'm curious, first of all, and like I said, I want to be, you know, I'm a fan. I want to be, supportive. I don't push it because I don't, like, maybe you don't want to talk about it. So like, but I do enjoy talking about the business.
What about when I'm venting about something? Is it,
Yeah,
is it like,
that's fine. Listen, I'm here to, it's no different if it was, anything, you know, like you can vent about it. That's what we're here for. I mean, we spend more time for the most part together, you know, than if you're not gonna vent to me, you're gonna vent to somebody else who may not want to hear it. So like I don't mind,
Facts.
I don't mind when
That's
you
nice.
vent.
I
Yeah.
feel like you want to solve the problem, or are you cool just like listen, or is it
No,
more?
I know I'm not gonna solve the problem. What I try to do is just maybe offer suggestions, and I try to do that very carefully. You know, have you thought about this? What do you think about this? You know, and then you know, just try to give you different ideas. You know, if it relates to if it relates to, you know, maybe an employee that you're struggling with, whatever, you know, I try to like maybe give a different perspective, but I try not to go too far the other way because then it looks like I'm like
Yeah.
maybe siding with them. And so, you know, I try to help where I can and just to try to maybe give you, you know, different ideas and just an overall different thought process, you know, but I stay in the place. Like I'm not trying to run your business.
No, no, but I'm also sometimes like a very difficult personality to read. Like, do I want help or do I just want you to say?
Yeah, well, that's why I'll say, have you thought about this? And I'll wait for that answer. And if you say no, or if you say, yeah, I thought about it, I'm like, all right, she doesn't really want to hear my ideas. She just kind of wants to
Let it go.
or vent. So
What do you think have been the biggest challenges over the last, whatever it's been, 12 years now, I think, since starting the business, between just as like a family unit and both of us having careers, whether it's me owning a business or not, we both have, careers, and we both contribute, relatively equally to the family income. Thankfully we have, for the most part, I think, the same financial goals, right? We spend very similarly. But what do you think have been some of the biggest challenges over the last, just from a career perspective, both of us being working parents?
I mean, I think the biggest challenge is like, you know, for us is just is really just the probably inconsistency or of both of our schedules. So sometimes it may be hard more because of my schedule, but you know, if I'm away for a week and then I'm coming back on a Saturday and it's a day off, I'm like, oh, quick, okay, cool, we can spend that day together. And then you're working that day,
Right.
and then Sunday I might be back at practice or something. So that gets hard because then, you know, like, you know, it's not like I don't think anyone works typically 9 to 5 anymore. But like, you know, when people are on a similar schedule, you're sitting down for dinner or you're doing whatever, and you know, and so you can at least count on that time together. Sometimes we don't have that time that we can count, and then kind of days flow into weeks, which can flow into even longer depending on how things lay out. And like, then, you know, it's harder to get, you know, to stay connected.
Right.
You know, you're not much of a phone person, you know, text or call. I can go either way, you know, like I'm not, but so like, you know, I think it's just staying connected.
Yeah. And so that's actually a perfect thing. Like, what did we just recently decide that we were gonna try to do more regularly to try to do that, be more connected?
Like more like set,
Yeah.
you know, like schedule things,
Yeah.
schedule
So
dates or schedule dinner or
let's
schedule.
tell everyone who, if they don't know you, like what you actually do. Like, we should say what you do for a living, if you're okay saying that.
Yeah, I work for the Miami Heat.
Right.
I'm in operations, logistics, kind of work closely with the coaching staff, travel with the, you know, I travel with the team. You know, obviously anywhere our team is, I am. So, you know, whether it's home games or road games, summer league, you know, and then kind of everyone.
You travel about at least over 100 days a year for the most part.
Yeah, well over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Probably half the year.
half the year. Yeah. And at the time of this recording, season hasn't started yet, but he's about to get ready to leave on training camp, which basically means like season, right?
Right.
We have the schedule, so at least we can plan. So one of the things we said, because he's right, like sometimes he'll come home from a road trip And he's like, yeah, let's go do something. I'm like, I got a workshop. Or I had a really bad week this week. Like I'm busy. I was covering for someone. I don't want to do anything. And so it was getting to the point that we were not doing anything. Right.
Right.
And so we recently just said, I'm a big planner and I like a schedule. So we were saying we can look at the schedule at least a month out and say like, okay, this is an off day, or you're going to come back this day. There's no game. So let's plan dinner. And if it's in the schedule, then I will know and then we'll
Right.
do something.
Right.
Right. Because both, we have one kid in college, one kid about to go to college. And, we've said like, we don't want to be like alone in the house. All of a sudden be like, what do we do? Like, what do we do?
Right. Right.
And so we've been intentional with trying to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Right.
And so, because it gets, especially the kids are young, you're running a business, you're traveling, like it becomes a lot, right? And so, do you remember if there were any financial strains because of the business? Like, I mean, thankfully during COVID, you did not lose your job and you maintained a paycheck. So that was good. But do you remember if there were really any like financial challenges because of the business or when things were like tough or?
I mean, I remember early on, definitely when you were struggling and so forth, and you had a client who kind of became like a mentor.
Mhm.
And I said, why don't you meet with him? He's super smart, he has really good ideas. I got to know him a little bit. And so all right, I'll meet with him. So the first thing he suggests is you need to put more money into the business. And we're like, where is this money coming from? Like, how are you putting more money into the business if you're not?
I feel like we were too young and broke to realize that there was like a recession going on. And so it didn't really affect us. But like for a lot of people, there was major recession because it was 2008.
Right. And so it was like, I met with him and he said to me, I need to put more money in the business. I'm like, more money in the business? Like, we're not even getting any money out of the business at that point. But thankfully, I mean, we figured it out, I think through loans or whatever. But that was stressful.
I think loans out. I think like your mom helped. I think we just took capital out of the business.
Yeah, however we got there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We might have taken, no, I think we might have taken like a home equity line or something like that. Like, but that was scary. It was like this business, this business is barely, I'm not saying barely surviving, but it's barely paying you enough to, to contribute what you need to contribute. And then he's saying, we need to double down and put more money in. So that was definitely scary.
Yeah.
But it was in hindsight, it was probably
very good.
It was
piece of advice.
100% the right piece of advice. And I know you've, a lot of your calls and your, people you worked with, you've told that story and you've encouraged people, to put money in the business. But, that was definitely a, scary. And then of course, COVID, COVID was, for a facility like yours or the service business like yours, it was just like, I mean, it was basically the worst thing that could happen at the time. And so, you had to sort of transform your business and figure out everything you could do to survive. And but we made it.
Yeah.
So.
What about when we started talking about expansion? I mean, you were one of the people that was like, you should do it. And I was like, I don't know, things are going pretty good here. Like, I think you're like, strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah. But yes, that's 100% true. And part of the reason is, I have a lot of faith in you and I can see the business. But, I've also had similar conversations where I said, maybe you should, maybe you should close the studio if it's not working. Like I just try to again, just try to give you different perspectives, because sometimes when you're so far in it, it's like you really can't see the bigger picture, and so I've tried to just give you both those perspectives, expand, and okay, but at the same time, don't be afraid. Like if it's, if it's not working, then you can retract, like, so I just try to like offer both. And, I think both of those things are like equally in their own way, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
These conversations.
Have you ever thought like, well, this is part of my money and I want to make a decision if we're going to like invest in you opening another location or expanding or having to throw money into the business?
Not really. Not like, oh, not like this is my money, but maybe more like, this is our money, and like, we kind of need that money to pay our mortgage or whatever, so like, like how it flows into as it hits our personal, from the professional books to the personal books.
Right.
I've thought about it, but never like, I don't want my money going into that.
Right.
It's more like, I don't know if we could handle that right now.
That investment.
Right.
Yeah. And we actually just talked today about sitting down and talking about like our personal budget and our personal finances, because we just bought a house. And so we just moved and moving expenses. So our expenses are a little bit different. We have a son in college. We have another one getting ready to go to college. For those of you that saw my Instagram post, my car broke down on the highway last week and we had paid money for new transmission. So we just said that we should talk about our personal finances too, just to make sure we are both at least on the same page, as far as like, we did put money away for our kids' college funds from the time they were very young. And at least for me, I think he never plans on retiring, but I have a retirement plan, like meaning I want to retire in the next 10 years and I want to really be intentional about putting into like retirement so that we can have savings, right? And so and I said to him, I feel like I have such a good handle on my business expenses. Like I could tell you how much is in my bank account. I could tell you how much our monthly expenses are, but I feel like I don't have that in our personal life. And so, are you comfortable talking a little bit about, I don't want to say responsibilities, I'm saying that in air quotes, and like what our roles are at home?
In terms of finances?
No, in terms of like what you really take control of, what I take control of. Like you do all the bills at home.
Right.
Yeah. I know nothing about like your personal finance.
So yeah, I handle, look, my professional background is like, my title at the Heat is Director of Vessel Administration. I have I'm very organized, very detailed. So as it relates to like our retirement planning, our financial planning, our bill paying, our budgeting, all that stuff, I kind of, manage that for us.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's really a sad thing to say. My friends that are like in banking are like, you should know I'm like, I know where all the papers are hidden.
Yeah, but it's not that uncommon that one person in a family handles that. Like I have friends, like some of them, the husband do it, some of them the wife do it. Like it's usually one person that does it. They don't, partners don't sit down together and say, okay, let's write the bills together.
Right.
So I don't think that's, that uncommon.
What about, so I don't cook. Well, that's not true. I cook. I'm not a good cook. So like I can put chicken in an oven. One of the things that we decided, or at least when you started traveling, I said, I'm cool with everything. I want you to take this job. It's great for you. But I'm also in a place now where I'm comfortable saying, I need XYZ in order for me not to go batshit crazy. So I have a food service delivery. We eat out a lot. And so that's a decision that we have made. Like, I don't feel the need to have dinner ready when you come home. And we're on crazy schedules now. Like even if you're gone, you're gone. If you have a game night, you're like here, not here, like whatever.
Right.
if you come home, then we'll try to like we'll order or something like that. But is that, I mean, from again, this is traditional marital roles, but have you ever been like, yeah, my wife doesn't cook? Like, is that a big deal to you?
No, it doesn't. That doesn't bother me.
No.
No,
I don't really clean either.
but you're clean though.
True. I'm needs
Right,
enough.
right.
Yes.
So,
But I don't clean. We share, I would say, kids' responsibilities. Like you tend to handle anything that involves talking to someone
or extracurricular
or
activities.
extracurricular activities.
You've been this person really driving the school stuff.
Right. So like I will handle a lot of college stuff, or basically like he needs this form, he needs this form. If you have to talk, I don't like talking to people. So like if you have to talk to someone, you're good at talking to someone.
Right.
So if you had advice to give partners of business, small business owners, okay, what advice would you have that you think has helped like you navigate? And I say partners because some of them are wives, some of them are husbands, some of them are life partners. Like, do you have any advice that you would give them?
I mean, I mentioned it before, like, I don't look at, even though I have a financial interest in the business, of course, like, I don't look at myself as an investor. My job is not to ask, questions, probing questions as it relates to the business. My job or my role is to be, a super fan, and be supportive. And I think if you
And are you legitimately though? Like, do you legitimately believe in like what the business is, the mission of the business?
how many clients,
I know,
How-
but I'm just asking.
what
lot.
was the conversation we had today?
But you sent another, you sent one who's loving it and another one, the same thing.
Right.
Okay.
So if I didn't believe in the business
True.
and I wasn't talking about the business, then they wouldn't,
That's true.
I wouldn't be able to refer
Facts.
clients, right?
That,
And I don't do that because because it is, I have any financial interest. I just do it because I believe in, the business. I believe in your team, and I've had more people come up to me and say, I love it, or I'm so happy, as I explained earlier. And so that's why I refer business.
right. Thank you. I love that. And so I interrupted you,
Yeah,
which I do a
thought-
lot. What advice do you have for partners?
Yeah, I would say to be, be supportive, be a fan. I would stay away from trying to get too much into the business. I mean, if you're thinking of it and you're sort of tangentially involved and they're really into it, they've probably already thought of it. But I think that you can find ways to offer suggestions and ideas and see if it stimulates further conversation. And if not, don't be offended. Don't be, don't get sideways, just, move on.
Right.
But ultimately, the best thing you can do is just be supportive.
And what about when you see, like, if you're the partner and you see the business owner like really struggling or like you said, stressed about certain things, is there advice you'd have for in that situation?
I think it's the same advice you would give me if I had a bad day.
Mhm.
What can I do to help? Is there anything you need from me? You don't need me to solve your business problems. You may
Right.
just need me to listen, or just to be supportive, or just to like have a drink or go out to dinner. Like,
True.
but it's the same advice that if we are on a losing streak, like you can't help like us get out of things.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you're not, nothing you can offer. All you can offer is just like, is friendship or
Right.
whatever, whatever
You can also
support I need.
put equipment together, move equipment. How much equipment have you put together? How many light bulbs have you changed or pictures on?
All of that. Yeah.
A lot.
I like it.
You do?
Yeah. I like it. That makes me feel, that always made me feel like connected to the business,
All right. I'll keep asking. You didn't like when I brought the towels on this time. You like that we had washer and dryer.
I would handle it.
All right. What do you think? Last question before we kind of like wrap it up. So what do you think the kids think about it? Like we have two boys, age almost, well, by the time this airs, it'll be 20 and 17. They've really been like, I've had business pretty much since they were
Mhm.
babies for the
Right.
most part. So like, how do you think, do you know how they feel about it? Do they think mom's just like a crazy workaholic, or do you think
No,
that
I think that they're, I think that they're really proud of you. I think that you're a great role model, because it's something a little bit, a little bit different, So, I think, I would say that, they love when you work with, athletes, and I think that they're really proud of you.
you think so?
I think so.
Do you think that I'm always wondering like if they think that I'm like always working, or do you think that that there's like a good,
We can ask him if you
we can
want.
ask, no, he's right out there eating Doritos. Um, no,
No, listen, maybe there was times where they said, but they probably think the same about me, that I'm always working. So I don't think, at this point, that's probably sort of what they know, is that we both work,
Right.
like, but I don't think it's like that you're not available for them when they need you. I mean, I think that, you know, I think in a way, like you have flexibility
True. That is true.
to
True.
attend things, or attend things during the day, or you
Yeah.
know cover for me when I'm not around, like,
Right.
so.
Where do you think, if you could fast forward like even 3 years, where do you think we'll be in terms of business? Do you foreshadow what Pilates and the growth will be, or what my role will be in the next couple of years?
No, I don't foreshadow it. I mean, you can never. I think that's very dangerous to do with businesses, like, because you couldn't have predicted a pandemic or anything like that. But
Sure.
I mean, what I've seen is what I shared earlier, that that you've really, put together a team that you have a lot of faith in, that have now, kind of developed their own, relationships and style, and like you can be more of a CEO of the business, and kind of oversee it like more globally. I know that you find, you know, you really enjoy, the business coaching, and kind of passing it along to people who are in your shoes, maybe, 10 years ago, or started a business 5 years ago, and then are struggling. And so I find that you find a lot of purpose in that. And it's kind of like the old adage about, teaching people, what's the adage, instead of teaching people to fish, and they
Right.
feed them for a year or something like that. And I
Give
feel
them
like,
fish, feed them for you, teach them how to fish, feed them for a lifetime.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
You-
But I I feel like, you find more purpose in that. And so, so I can't predict. I mean, who knows? Maybe someone will convince you to open up another studio, and it will be, we'll both be totally off. But I do think
Like when
that
I kept trying to convince you to have a third kid,
right,
and you're like, definitely not.
right.
No.
No, I'm a
You
man.
wanna- you wanna-
Yeah,
you wanna
I'm
come?
So
Are you,
So-
will you ever work for Pilates in the garage?
no, no.
No, no, we will
Do
not.
you want me to work with Pilates in the Go?
No.
No. We're good where we are.
We're-
We're good in our roles.
Cheers for that. Cheers to being good where we are. I agree. All right, do you have any last minute advice, any last minute comments that you want to share with the audience before we go? I'm trying to think of like, no, I don't know. I think we answered all the questions we were going to talk about.
I don't have anything else. That's about as much as I can talk.
You did really well. I'm very proud of you.
Did I?
You did great. You were on it. You were so nervous about it. You're a chatterbox.
I wasn't nervous. I was uncomfortable.
But you,
I don't like to listen to myself talk.
well, you don't have to listen. You're just talking. You have
Okay.
to listen back to the podcast to hear yourself talk. Right? But if I send it to everyone,
Go ahead, editorial control.
you have there's no edits. I'm just like, this is it. Put it in there. Like,
Okay.
I don't need
All
to.
right, let's roll it.
And I think I only said one F-bomb this time, so that's actually pretty good. All right, so this was how my husband, my partner, Scott, and I navigate being in a relationship, and both of us having careers and children, raising families and all of that good stuff. So I'm sure that this is going to get like a lot of, I don't know, maybe people will be like, I don't want to hear this, but maybe not. Maybe they'll be like, oh, this is interesting. I could share it with my partner. And maybe not. So if you have feedback, I would love to hear it. You can take a screenshot of this, of you listening to this podcast, tag me on Instagram. I'm at Krista Gurka. And if you want to meet me in person, I would love for you to come to my CEO summit, of which I already told Scott, like, these are the days that I'm going to be working really busy. I don't know if you
It's on the shared family.
It's on the shared family calendar. And it's November 7th, no, November 8th, 9th, and a bonus day on the 10th. So you can go visit kristagurka.com/2023 CEO Summit to apply. And I think we only have like 10 spots left. So if you want to grab one of those 10, be sure to do it now. And anything else?
That's it. Let's go eat.
That's it, people. Bye for now.